Li Xuan travels through the world of pirates 4,000 years ago, starting with the role of the oldest king, Gilgamesh. Created the Uruk Empire with one hand, leaving behind countless mysterious legends. But at its peak, it slept for 4,000 years due to system upgrades. 4,000 years later, when many powerful forces on the sea gradually discovered the scattered traces of the Uruk EmpireLi Xuan, who has been sleeping for 4,000 years, stepped out of the golden capital and once again demonstrated the posture of the oldest king on the sea with an invincible posture. And the ancient king Gilgamesh was just the beginning. The 5 clans conquer the heavens, the black dragon heaven enslaves all beings, and the void circle constantly peeks into the sea and the human world when one secret after another that has already been woven is uncovered. The entire ocean. Completely plunged into a frenzy. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. A mysterious stone slate that exists for 4,000 years. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A solitary island towering amidst the waves of the sea, with thousands of naval elite looking solemn, and naval warships towering. This is the Navy headquarters. Marineford. It is the place where countless arrogant pirates fear the most on the sea. It is also the most sacred place in the eyes of countless civilians in the sea. At this time, Malingfu, with the sea roaring and the rainstorm pouring, was like a ferocious thunder dragon, cracking the sky and flapping his teeth. The ominous clouds added a touch of solemnity. In an office located in the core area of Marineford, a group of naval generals sat among them, including General Ghost Spider, General Crane, General Peach Rabbit. At a glance, one can be shocked to find that the naval generals sitting in this office are at the lowest level of elite lieutenant general. Among them, the naval hero Kapu and the 3 major generals of the naval headquarters were not absent. Almost all senior naval officers have gathered. Such a battle only occurred more than 10 years ago when Roger was publicly executed. Many naval generals who gradually took their seats exchanged glances, all seeing an immense solemnity in the other's eyes. After all, what is such an important thing that convened the highest meeting of all senior naval officers so urgently? Above the throne, the supreme commander of the Navy, the Marshal of the Warring States period, swept over a group of high-ranking naval officers with a dignified expression. As soon as he spoke, the atmosphere in the entire conference room was suppressed to the extreme. Everyone. A mysterious slate discovered a year ago on the Great Navigation Channel. After researchers' tireless deciphering day and night, finally, the results have been obtained. That's a message. Enough to shake the entire ocean. As soon as Marshal Pu of the Warring States period spoke, he made all the senior naval officers in the conference room shrink their pupils and tremble slightly. That mysterious slate a year ago, it was discovered on the Great Navigation Channel, which alarmed the 5 old stars. Just because. The texture and appearance of this slate were defined by a group of researchers as creatures from 4,000 years ago. 4,000 years ago. This is definitely an extremely distant time. Even if the world government is established, it is only 800 years. This slate existed before 5 world governments. At that point in time, civilization already existed. Could it even create this kind of stone slab that will not disappear for 4,000 years? And the slate that existed in that era, what was recorded, is absolutely extraordinary. For a moment even the usually lazy naval general Qingji straightened his body slightly, his eyes flickering with a hint of brilliance. The kingdom of Alabastion Desert located in the first half of the Great Passage. The gloomy and dark underground world amidst the ruins, a stone tablet towering up to 100 meters stands alone. The king of the Uruk Empire. Gilgamesh. A voice full of infinite greed shattered this eternal tranquility. Take a closer look under the massive stone tablet, there are still 2 figures. One of them was draped in a coat, with a terrifying scar on his left face, and he was holding a cigar in his mouth. But almost fell to the ground because it was too shocking. Another figure, with soft black hair draped over her shoulders, had a delicate and stunning face, and a proud figure. At this moment, her expression was slightly dull. Obviously she was also deeply moved by the content she translated herself. Taking a deep breath, the ferocious and greedy middle-aged man extended his golden arm hook and casually swept past another figure. A hint of cruelty appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he coldly said, "Robin. Is everything recorded on it true? Do you know? What I detest the most is being deceived." Robin glanced at the speaker, his fervent expression hard to conceal, and whispered, "President. If you don't believe it, you can find someone else to test it." Cut. With a pout, Clockdale turned around and threw away his cigar to stamp it out. Since the destruction of O'Hara by the world government, the entire ocean has dared to study people with the ability to study history, almost becoming extinct Robin. But he took a huge risk to protect the sinful sun. If he could easily find a historian who could replace Robin, he would have already taken Robin to the Navy headquarters to make a fortune. However, I have to say he chose to take a huge risk to protect Robin, which was really the right choice. For example, now, if it weren't for Robin, how could he have discovered this secret from 400 years ago? Duh. Stepping on the dark sand, leaving a long trail of footprints. Clockder's eyes sparkled brightly, and the curvature of his mouth grew larger and larger. 4,000 years ago, the ruler of the empire. It's not an exaggeration to call him even the oldest king, right? The treasure of the oldest king. It's really tempting. Seeking flowers, seeking rewards, seeking collections, seeking monthly tickets. Chapter 2. The Strongest Performance System. Upgrade completed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The first half of the Great Navigation Channel is an uninhabited sea area. A strong wind suddenly rises, a tsunami sweeps across, and the Sea Kings, who used to dominate the sea, are now anxiously curled up in the deep sea. Big eyes, filled with humanized fear. Click. Click. The crisp sound of shattering is like glass shattering. A space on the sea suddenly shattered, with terrifying cracks spreading like spider webs. In the end, the space was completely shattered, with fragments flickering and falling in all directions. Infinite golden radiance blooms from the shattered space. Duh. The crisp sound of footsteps, approaching from afar, the golden radiance becoming more and more intense, dazzling and making people unable to open their eyes. Slowly, a tall figure emerged from the shattered space. A head of golden short hair scattered, wearing a golden armor, eating red pupils filled with loneliness and contempt. It's like the whole world has nothing to be seen by it. A cold face, like a towering deity. And the infinite golden radiance that pierced through space bloomed from the golden armor on his body. Stepping out of the shattered space, Li Xian's red pupils flickered with confusion. Immediately after, a ray of light enveloped him, and a moment later, when he opened his eyes again, he let out a faint sigh. Has it been 4,000 years? 4,000 years. This time, 4,000 years ago, was incredibly distant for Li Xian. Even though he has experienced time travel and gained access to the system, he never imagined that he had spent 4,000 years in just a deep sleep. Yes. Li Xian is not a person from this world. In his past life, he was an ordinary Blue Mercury person. By chance, he traveled to a world he was extremely familiar with in his past life, One Piece world. However, unfortunately he traveled too early, not to mention Luffy, the world government and navy have never heard of it. Fortunately, with the addition of the strongest cosplay system, he was able to draw the powerful Gilgamesh template that was comparable to the gods at the beginning. And the strongest acting system. It's Li Xian's golden finger. Being able to extract templates from countless characters in various worlds and obtain their strength. The higher the progress of the role, the higher the fit, and the stronger the strength he possesses. With Gilgamesh's formidable strength, even though it was not his peak period, he still helped him, pushing horizontally all the way and sweeping the sea at that time. It has also established an immensely glorious Uruk Empire. And just as the Uruk Empire reached its peak, Li Xian's portrayal of Gilgamesh also reached 90% progress. Due to the breakthrough of 90% in the performance progress for the first time and the system meeting the upgrade conditions, Li Xian nodded and upgraded. He immediately fell into a deep sleep in the Golden City, which contained infinite treasures. This deep sleep is 4,000 years. So, at the beginning, just as he awakened and stepped out of the Golden Capital, a few confusions appeared deep in Li Xian's pupils. Stepping into the void, Li Xian said in a deep voice. What's different about you after the system upgrade? Just a deep sleep, it's 4,000 years of time. If there is no improvement in the system's capabilities, or if there are no new capabilities, that's really a big loss. A cold and emotionless voice quickly echoed through my mind. Master, after upgrading, this system can not only extract character templates to play, but also summon characters related to the characters played or played by the master. At the same time, the number of characters played in this system has also been significantly improved. Oh! Summoning characters from other worlds. With a gaze fixed, Li Xian's pupils flickered. It seems that the system upgrade did not disappoint him. In his past performances, he always felt like something was missing. Even if he established the Uruk Empire in this completely unfamiliar world, it was the same. Now it seems that what he lacks is the existence of summoning and playing the character world. Playing alone, in the end, is not so perfect. And if we can summon the strong in the world where the character is playing, so this is extremely advantageous for Li Xian. At the same time, it can also keep his ongoing plans running. Not only that, and the improvement of the system online is also very awesome. The original system could only extract character templates such as Gilgamesh, whose strength reached around half-god level, at most after the upgrade. How terrifying should this online unlocking be? I'm afraid at least they are all divine-level powerhouses. At this point, Li Xian, who had experienced a series of major events, couldn't help but feel excited. Strength. No matter in which world, strength is the most important. 4,000 years ago, Li Xian relied on Gilgamesh's strength to push the entire ocean horizontally. But now that 4,000 years have passed, who knows what the ocean is like now? Seeking flowers, seeking rewards, seeking collections, seeking monthly tickets. Chapter 3. The First Empire. The Uruk Empire. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Naval Headquarters, Supreme Conference Room. During the Warring States period, looking around at all the senior officers of the Navy headquarters, with a serious face and a solemn tone, he spoke. 4,000 years ago. There was a person who swept the sea, ruled the entire sea, and established an supreme empire. Meanwhile, it is also the first existence discovered so far to establish an empire. That era. Everyone called it the oldest king. The oldest king. Gilgamesh. What is recorded on the slate is about the existence of this so-called oldest king. The oldest king Gilgamesh possesses all the treasures in the world. Whoever can obtain the treasures of the oldest king can rule the world. Amazing words. Even at the beginning of the Warring States period, many high-level naval headquarters in the conference room were already mentally prepared. At this moment, I am still deeply shocked. Rao is a naval headquarters general known as the Red Dog, and Sakaski is also moved by him at this time. Ah la la la. The dull atmosphere was shattered, and on the left side of the Warring States period, the naval hero Cap laughed and said, "Do you also believe in the record of the Warring States period? Perhaps 4,000 years ago, there really existed some ancient king Gilgamesh, the Uruk Empire, but the statement that owning all the treasures of the world and obtaining the treasures of the ancient king was enough to rule the world. Too false, isn't it? Moreover, 4,000 years ago, it was too far away from today. There were too many changes in it. Upon hearing this, the atmosphere in the office became stagnant. Yeah, even today's world governments dare not claim to own all the treasures in the world. And what kind of treasure is it that allows people to directly rule the world? The most precious thing on the sea. Devil's fruit. Or ancient weapons. No. These, none of them work. Not to mention the devil fruit, there are not many capable individuals on the sea, but there are definitely many. Regardless of which one has the ability, it is simply unrealistic to rule the world on their own. Ancient weapons, such as the Heavenly King, the Sea King, and the Underworld King, cannot achieve such a level. At this point, the tense face of the Warring States period couldn't help but relax a bit. Indeed, as Cap said, all of this is a bit too unbelievable. Moreover, as time goes by for 4,000 years, everything is changing. At that time, all the treasures of the so-called oldest king might have been devil's fruits. However, it is all or most of the demonic fruits. Only in this way can it match the content recorded on the slate. The devil's fruit may have been in the hands of the oldest king at the earliest, but with his passing, the Uruk Empire collapsed. All the demonic fruits are exposed, which is what makes the ocean today. As a marshal of the Navy headquarters, the Warring States period not only had top-notch strength, but also extremely agile thinking. Quickly, everything was connected and a very reasonable guess came to mind. Oh my! It seems that this is just a historical inscription about 4,000 years ago. A lazy voice came, and the yellow ape stretched lazily, regaining its lazy appearance and slumped into a chair. Historical inscriptions and so on. He's not interested. Is it not good to clock in and work safely at that time? Glancing at the yellow ape, the Warring States period did not refute it. The body leaned back slightly, leaning against the back of the chair. After a moment of relief, the heart did not relax too much. Anyway. Behind this slate, there is history that we have never excavated before. The oldest king Gilgamesh, the Uruk Empire. Once these news are released, they can also attract countless people to flock to them. So everyone. During speech. During the Warring States period, he stood up from his seat, propped his hands on his desk, and said, "I hope to keep the content of this meeting hidden in my heart." A pair of sharp pupils, through the window of the highest conference room, captured a panoramic view of the entire naval headquarters, and a faint sense of powerlessness rose in the Warring States period. Nowadays, the sea is full of various ghosts and gods. If the content of this slate is exposed again, it may add a bit of naval trouble. The Navy, being able to maintain today's balance, is already extremely difficult. I don't know why. Even if I feel that what Cap said is very reasonable. But in the heart of the Warring States period, a few strands of unease inexplicably appeared. It seems necessary to have someone investigate the relationship between the Uruk Empire and this ancient king. Seeking flowers, seeking rewards, seeking collections, seeking monthly tickets. Chapter 4. The Treasure of the Ancient King. Enough to push horizontally. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wow. The raging sand surged and a massive sandstorm ravaged the palace of the Alabastian kingdom. The guards belonging to the Alabastian kingdom were drowned and hanged by the endless sand without even having time to resist. The raging sand spreads all the way, pointing straight to the main hall of the Alabastian palace. In front of the palace hall, Kobu Lamian Noodles, the king of the kingdom of Alabastan, saw the pole. Although Alabastan is a desert kingdom, such raging sand is extremely rare, let alone without any signs, appearing directly in the palace. This can never be a natural phenomenon. Duh. In the endless raging sand, a tall figure reflects and slowly steps out. A spreading scar was terrifying, with an earring on his right ear and a cigar in his mouth. His eyes were filled with arrogance and greed. When he saw the figure clearly, Cobb Lamian Noodles turned crazy and said in a deep voice, Croc. Doll. The kingdom has been in turmoil for 2 years. As a king, Kubula, although not very capable, also vaguely sensed all of this has a shadow behind it and, it is highly likely that it is the Clockdale, known as the Seven Martial Seas. However, due to Clockdale's terrifying power, even with some speculation, Cobra was unable to change the situation. At this point, after seeing Clodal appear so blatantly in front of him, wreaking havoc on the palace of Alabastion, Kubula's heart even reached her throat. Is it Croctor, are you ready to go all out? Goo 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 goo. Behind him, endless raging sand filled the sky, and Cloctor laughed heartily. Every step he took could raise a cloud of dust. That pair of greedy eyes never left Cobra from beginning to end. Such a greedy and fierce gaze made Kubula, as the king of a great kingdom, tremble uncontrollably in his heart. Clockdale. This is the Alabastion Palace. The Alabastion Kingdom is a world franchise. You. Don't be too reckless. Forcefully suppressing his fear, Cobra tried to make his voice more majestic in order to intimidate Clockdale. However, Croc sneered and sneered, disdainfully pouting, coldly saying, "Cut. The member countries of the world government. Are you threatening me?" Taking a step forward, the golden inverted hook flickered with metallic hues, and the yellow sand behind Clockdale became even more violent. It seems like there is a possibility of an outbreak at any time, flooding the entire palace of Alabastion. At the same time, amidst the scattered yellow sand, Crodal's voice continued to come. "Hand it over. Cobra. The treasure of the oldest king. You don't have the ability to have it at all. Leave it to me." Roaming and rumbling. Clockdale's voice is not loud. But like a thunderbolt, it exploded in Cobra's ear, making him stiff in place, his soul trembling, and his pupils contracting suddenly. The treasure of the oldest king. How could it be? How could anyone in this world still know the name of the oldest king? Does anyone else know? The treasure of the oldest king. The oldest king. Shouldn't it have completely disappeared into history with the passage of time? The mind trembled, and Cobb Lamian Noodles turned pale, but in the next second, he forced himself to calm down and said, trembling, "The treasure of the oldest king. Clockdale. What are you talking about? Where is the oldest king on this vast sea? And where is the treasure of the oldest king?" This significant emotional change completely convinced Clockdale that Robin had translated the information from that mysterious inscription. The corners of his mouth curved, and Clodal laughed. The raging sand spread, and a terrifying aura drifted in the yellow sand, pressing towards Cabroy. Goo 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 goo. Goo 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 goo. The Nefertari family. The largest family in the Uruk Empire back then. The family that the oldest king trusts the most. Before the disappearance of the ancient king, he once bestowed upon Nefertari his treasure, which was capable of overthrowing the world, for generations to guard. So, Nefertari Cobra. Is there anyone who knows more about this ancient king's treasure than you do? The oldest king established the Uruk Empire 4,000 years ago and swept the sea. And the oldest king even collected all the treasures in the world. Many of these treasures disappeared with the disappearance of the oldest king, and the collapse of the Uruk Empire disappeared without a trace. But one of the extremely powerful treasures was obtained by the Nefertari family, the largest family of the Uruk Empire. And, guarded for generations, looking forward to their king coming again. These it is the message that Robin translated for Clockdale from that mysterious inscription. Seeking flowers, seeking rewards, seeking collections, seeking monthly tickets. New book seeking point support. You are listening at novelfull.audio. New book upload, please feel free to support any of you. Everyone knows that data is too important for a new book. The free flower monthly pass evaluation ticket even determines the life and death of many books. The author doesn't dare to expect any tips from the big shots here, but only hopes to have some support to excite the author's writing. Instead of just brushing grades, not moving, day by day, with no hope at all. Whether it's a flower or an evaluation ticket, they are the greatest encouragement for the author. Here, the author thanks every reader who supports this book. New book upload, please feel free to support any of you. Everyone knows that data is too important for a new book. The free flower monthly pass evaluation ticket even determines the life and death of many books. The author doesn't dare to expect any tips from the big shots here, but only hopes to have some support to excite the author's writing. Instead of just brushing grades, not moving, day by day, with no hope at all. Whether it's a flower or an evaluation ticket, they are the greatest encouragement for the author. Here, the author thanks every reader who supports this book. New book upload, please feel free to support any of you. Everyone knows that data is too important for a new book. The free flower monthly pass evaluation ticket even determines the life and death of many books. The author doesn't dare to expect any tips from the big shots here, but only hopes to have some support to excite the author's writing. Instead of just brushing grades, not moving, day by day, with no hope at all. Whether it's a flower or an evaluation ticket, they are the greatest encouragement for the author. Here, the author thanks every reader who supports this book. New book upload, please feel free to support any of you. Everyone knows that data is too important for a new book. The free flower monthly pass evaluation ticket even determines the life and death of many books. The author doesn't dare to expect any tips from the big shots here, but only hopes to have some support to excite the author's writing. Instead of just brushing grades, not moving, day by day, with no hope at all. Whether it's a flower or an evaluation ticket, they are the greatest encouragement for the author. Here, the author thanks every reader who supports this book. New book upload, please feel free to support any of you. Everyone knows that data is too important for a new book. The free flower monthly pass evaluation ticket even determines the life and death of many books. The author doesn't dare to expect any tips from the big shots here, but only hopes to have some support to excite the author's writing. Instead of just brushing grades, not moving, day by day, with no hope at all. Whether it's a flower or an evaluation ticket, they are the greatest encouragement for the author. Here, the author thanks every reader who supports this book. Chapter 5. Do bastards dare to peek at the treasure of our king? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Led by Icolum, dozens of members of the Alabastian Kingdom's escort team lined up neatly, braved fierce sandstorms, and stood in front of Kubula. However, as the seven martial seas under the king, Croctor's strength is unparalleled. Even if it's just the pressure mixed in the overflowing sand, it has already made these members of the Kingdom Guard suffer unbearably. However, even though the knees of these members of the Kingdom Guard have already bent and their bodies are soaked in sweat, they still haven't retreated. They are the Alabastian Kingdom Guard. It is the most elite team in the entire Alabastion, responsible for guarding the King of Alabastion. How? Maybe. His body trembled, and Kubula stumbled and fell directly onto the ground. A pair of calm and hard-working eyes could no longer suppress fear, shock, and surprise all climbed onto his face. Regarding the origin of the Nefertari family and the royal treasure that has been guarded for generations, this vast sea only he should know now. Even the oldest king, this monumental figure from 400 years ago, is now largely unknown to the C.Y. Croctor. Is able to know the name of that great existence, and even more so, they know the secret that the Nefertari family has been guarding for generations. What exactly? Where did the mistake go, roaming and rumbling? The raging sand surged and swept through the yellow sand, directly dispersing a group of members of the Alabastian Kingdom's escort team. Croctor's figure merged into the yellow sand, reappeared, and had already arrived in front of Cobra. Looking down at Kubula from a high position, he slowly extended his right hand and pinched Kubula's chin. Damn it. Hurry up and let go of your highness the king. A suppressed roar to the extreme. Captain of the Alabastian Kingdom Guard, Icolum's sword flickered in his hand, running like a fierce tiger. Without even glancing at Ikelim, Cloctor's mind moved and the yellow sand condensed into a stream, rushing away. Roaming and rumbling. The violent force directly lifted Ikelim up to 100 meters and knocked down a piece of palace buildings. Subsequently, it was engulfed by the surging yellow sand. And disappeared completely. Captain. Dozens of members of the escort team were shocked to see Ikelim, who was far stronger than themselves and others, being swept away and submerged. The power of Wang Xia's 7 martial seas is too terrifying, they don't even have the strength to fight. With one strike, he directly killed the captain of the Alabastian Kingdom Guard, and Cloctor didn't even turn his eyes. From beginning to end, it all fell on Kubula. A fierce expression surged in his heart, and his face gradually turned grim. Clodel said in a deep voice. Kubula. I have a limit to my patience. Every moment of hesitation in you means the disappearance of countless lives. The sandstorm in Cloctor directly envelopes the entire palace and is still spreading, so at every moment, Kubula could vaguely hear screams and howls from the raging sand. Cluck. Bite tightly between teeth. At this moment, Kubula had no time to speculate about where Clockdale learned about the existence of the oldest king. Where did you learn that the treasure of the king that their family guards the opponent's strength? Is too terrifying. It is completely overwhelming. Even if all the powers of the entire Alabastian kingdom are combined, they are not opponents of each other in this situation. Continuing to guard, what is the significance of the king's treasure, which has no idea of its purpose? That lifeless creature that has guarded for 4,000 years. But has never undergone any changes, where can it compare to the entire kingdom of Alabastian? The first head of the Nefertari family, Nefertari Bik, who was loyal to the oldest king Gilgamesh, although he was warned in the family's secret scriptures. Before disappearing, the oldest king had told him that he was about to disappear for a period of time. I just don't know the exact time, but it will definitely reappear. But it has been a full 4,000 years since the first head of the family to the present Kubula. There has never been a record of the revival of the oldest king. How could one still be alive without appearing for 4,000 years? Just as Kubula gradually made a decision in his heart and was about to speak up and agree, a cold voice echoed through the main hall of the palace, making one feel like falling into an ice cellar. Bastard! Who gave you the confidence? Dare to pry into my king's treasure? Seeking flowers, seeking rewards, seeking collections, seeking monthly tickets. Chapter 6. The Ancient King. Has he returned? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The sudden sound startled both Cobra and Clockdale in the main hall. Next up. Click. The crisp sound of space shattering resounds through. The space above the two suddenly shattered amidst the shimmering golden radiance. A majestic figure appeared as if stepping on the golden avenue, majestic and sacred. The pupils suddenly contracted, and Clockdale was taken aback. His aura was domineering, yet he didn't catch the incoming person. The person who suddenly appeared is probably not weak in strength. Moreover, the way this person appeared also made Cloctor, who was a member of the 7 martial seas, feel a wave of suspicion in his heart. But compared to these, what worries him the most is that the other party may have heard what he said to Cobra. Even if the other party can't compete for him in the end, what if they run away? Once the news of his acquisition of the treasure of the oldest king is leaked, there may be countless gazes on the sea in an instant. Besides, he has some impression of a strong man on the sea. This figure is just appearing eerie, not remembered by him. It should just be a weak person who emerged from somewhere unknown. This. Compared to Clockdale. After the initial surprise, Kubula fell into a state of panic, her mind clouded with confusion. The old fingers, covered in grooves, pointed towards the golden radiance, the divine figure, if he remembers correctly, in the family letter of Nefertari, that unparalleled, divine king, dressed in golden battle armor, with scattered golden short hair and red pupils, revealing an unparalleled will of the king. At the same time, there is also an innate sense of superiority. That is a born king. With murky eyes fixed on Li Xian, Kubula trembled more and more violently just because The sudden appearance of this figure, with its image and temperament, is too much like what Nefertari said, the oldest king. Especially, the meaning conveyed by the cold and aloof voice before further confirmed his identity. But how could this be possible? The oldest king Gilgamesh. But 4,000 years ago, the king of the Uruk Empire disappeared for 4,000 years. How could it possibly appear here? How could anyone survive for 4,000 years in this vast sea? Stepping out of the gates of the golden capital, he appeared completely above the main hall of the Abastan palace. Li Xuan stepped on the air, standing tall in the sky, towering over everything, his red pupils capturing everything. Unexpectedly. At first, the person I casually promoted was actually the royal ancestor of the One Piece world in the desert kingdom of Alabastan Kingdom. What he didn't expect even more was after a gap of 4,000 years, Croctor, the Seven Martial Seas, surprisingly knew of his existence. Even more so, he directly approached the royal family of the Alabastan Kingdom and snatched the treasure he had left for them to keep safe. However, this just right. Just waking up from the golden capital, Li Xuan is not very clear about the strength of the strong in this era, as well as his own definition of strength. There can only be a vague calculation. And the appearance of Clockdale clearly helped him understand the level of his current strength that can be achieved on the sea today. Wang Xia's Seven Martial Seas. It is indeed a good sharpening stone as far as this is concerned. Li Xuan's eyes flickered, and his gaze fell on Clockdale. His crimson pupils were sharp and cold like sharp blades. The proud voice of the king emanated from his mouth. Have all the bastards of later generations become so rampant? Even with a mere ant-like strength, dare to peek into the king's treasure? If Li Xuan's previous words, due to some reasons, were not attended to by Clockdale. So at this point, Li Xuan's voice, full of contempt and aloofness, made Clockdale's anger constantly rise. Bastards. Ants. He commands the Seven Martial Seas, a great pirate galloping across the sea. He has always been the one who makes others feel scared. When have you ever been so underestimated? Shalon. Sandstorms are rising everywhere. Clockdale turned around and condensed the power of sand and dust with his right hand. A sandstorm condensed, and the sweeping sandstorm crazily tore apart everything around it, killing Li Xuan in the sky. Bastard! How dare you wield a weapon against Wang? With a cold snort, Li Xuan lifted his right hand lightly as the storm of sand approached. Dots of golden light surged, and the brilliant golden light formed a golden barrier in front of him, firmly guarding him, roaming and rumbling. Next second, a sandstorm with a diameter exceeding 50 meters fiercely collided with the newly formed barrier covered in golden flowing light. A raging sandstorm roared and swept through the golden barrier of light. However, it could never be saved. Compared to before, the devastation and decay of Croctor have formed a huge gap. Seeking flowers, seeking rewards, seeking collections, seeking monthly tickets. Chapter 7. The 87th head of the Nefertari family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After all the sandstorm subsided, Li Xuan was left behind. There was not even a trace on his body, still so high and spotless, like the inviolable king of eternity. Buzzing. The golden radiance bloomed from Li Xuan, rendering the entire sky dazzling and making it impossible for people to open their eyes. The sandstorm that ravaged the entire palace gradually subsided and dispersed. Under that golden radiance, as obedient as a child, the yellow sand has fallen completely. The entire palace, in everyone's eyes, is filled with the radiance of the proud and aloof king. Under the majesty of the oldest king, countless people couldn't help but bow in their hearts. This. Such a heavy momentum. Where exactly did this man come from? Whispering, Croctor's pupils suddenly contracted. Even he felt immense pressure and deadly threat under Li Xuan's terrifying aura, especially that kind of regal aura. Far surpassing anyone Crocodile has ever seen. Even the white beard, hailed as the fourth emperor, is far from enough. This is like a born king. Wang. Wang. Belonging to the Nefertari family. The 87th generation leader, Nefertari Kubula. Greet the ancient king once again. Without any hesitation. Immersed in shock, Kubula knelt down directly at Li Xuan, completely disregarding the dignity of a king. After feeling his unparalleled royal pressure at this moment, he, despite being extremely puzzled, unable to believe, and experiencing intense inner turmoil, Li Xuan's identity was still firmly established. The oldest king. Gilgamesh. This posture, Kubula has never felt it even on the 5 old stars. Only the oldest king worshipped infinitely by his ancestors, big only then can one possess such a posture. His ancestors, Nefertari, did not deceive him, nor did they deceive the entire Nefertari family. The oldest king. Gilgamesh. Really 4,000 years later, it appeared again. The oldest king. Gilgamesh. Kubula's words left Clodagh extremely shocked. How could it be? Although he admitted that the person who suddenly appeared in front of him was of considerable strength. But it's impossible to be the oldest king. The oldest king was the founder of the Uruk Empire 4,000 years ago, who had already died 4,000 years ago. How could it possibly appear here? Don't believe it. After being shocked, Clodagh completely disbelieved what Cobra had said. With a glance at Kubula, Li Xuan nodded and whispered. Nefertari. Is it a descendant of Bik? 4,000 years ago, Li Xuan established the first empire, the Uruk Empire, and his followers were countless. This Nefertari was one of his loyal generals. Initially, Li Xuan also attached great importance to it. Just didn't expect the descendants of this Bik, 4,000 years later. Surprisingly, the royal family of the Alabastian kingdom among the pirates, and in today's era it should be after Roger's death, before Luffy went out to sea. After all, if Luffy had already set sail, then Clodagh would either be imprisoned in Advancing City, or enter a new world and be banned from the 7 Martial Seas title. Compared to 4,000 years ago, in this era today, Li Xuan is actually more familiar with it. What are you joking about? The oldest king Gilgamesh. Old man. You say he's the oldest king Gilgamesh? That kind of person who died 4,000 years ago, even their name has disappeared from history. How could it possibly reappear? Even if you want to find someone to fabricate lies and force me to retreat, you still need to find a reliable one for me, right? On the side. Clodagh, whose face was gloomy and uncertain, glanced at Kubula with a pair of fierce eyes, staring fixedly at Li Xuan. The sand fruit's ability operates, and the ground under its feet is gradually covered by yellow sand. Seeing and hearing the colors spread out arrogantly, sweeping through every inch of space. The oldest king. The person in front of me cannot be the oldest king. At most, it's just a sea power that I've never heard of before. Kubula said this, probably just to force him back. Not bad. It must be like this. 4,000 years ago, people were still alive. How could anyone believe such words? Seeking flowers, seeking rewards, seeking collections, seeking monthly tickets. Chapter 8. The Treasure of the King. The Lock of Heaven. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Li Xuan's crimson pupils turned and his gaze fell on Clodagh. A hint of disdain curved lightly, as if mocking an ant who is beyond measure, just a bastard. How can one know the glory of the king? Peering at the king's treasure. Even more so, seeing the king undefeated. Taking a step forward, the golden radiance surged down the path, and Li Xuan spread his hands, floating in mid-air. The rich golden radiance spread all the way to the core area of the Alabastian kingdom, buzzing. As if in response, a golden light shot up into the sky. Before anyone could react, a golden light pierced through the sky and landed around Li Xuan. The radiance slowly dissipated. In the radiance, there was a shimmering silver chain that spread and circled around Li Xuan. The sharp edges at both ends are tinged with a hint of gold, showing their sharpness. This is below. After seeing the sudden appearance of the chain, the last hint of suspicion in Cobra's heart was also dispelled and eliminated. Just because this sudden appearance of the chain is undoubtedly the treasure of the king that the Nefertari family has been guarding for generations. Just the treasure of the king at this moment compared to when they were guarding, there were no miracles, completely different. At this point that chain full of sharpness and spirituality can be called the treasure of a king. The person who can attract the treasure of a king 4,000 years ago and suddenly appears must be the oldest king, Gilgamesh. 4,000 years. This king really lived 4,000 years ago, and today, 4,000 years later, he once again appeared on the sea. Like thinking, the two ends of the chain, like daggers, kept dancing in front of Li Xuan. It's like being overjoyed along the way, even Li Xuan's cold and proud eyes couldn't help but soften a bit. With both hands outstretched, he gently caressed the ends of the dagger-like chain and murmured. Long time no see. Old friend. This silver chain is Gilgamesh's own treasure, called the Heavenly Lock. Extraordinary power, once locked in, even the gods find it difficult to compete for it. After reaching a certain level of progress in the play, it's not just about strength. Even objects that play the role of a character can be realized. 4,000 years ago, before falling into a deep sleep, Gilgamesh had chosen 5 pieces from his own royal treasure to keep and protect the Uruk Empire for his 5 subordinates. However, I didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, a deep sleep would last for 4,000 years. The lock of this day was sensed by him in the nearby sea area and rushed over. As for the other 4 treasures of the king, due to the distance being too far, his perception was extremely blurred and he could not even perceive the specific location. Trapped in the heavenly lock, Li Xuan's momentum surged once again, his cold and proud eyes fixed on Clockdale. Bastard! Come on! How do you want to die? As Li Xuan's words fell, the 2 ends of the heavenly lock hovering around him, like daggers, slowly lifted up. An unparalleled sharpness faced Clockdale. Under the scorching sun, it shines immensely. Anger surged up, and his face was extremely ferocious. Clockdale is a natural type, with the ability of sand and fruit, and is also known as the 7 martial seas. His strength is top-notch in the entire ocean. Even in his heart, he believed that he was no less than the 4th emperor. When has someone ever been so contemptuous? Wow! With his right hand waving, he manipulated and the prepared sand condensed into a salon roll in front of him. The salon roll crazily engulfed everything around it and rapidly spread, reaching a diameter of 100 meters in no time. Under such a massive salon, the main hall of the palace collapsed directly. Even the surrounding ground has been greatly affected, with cracks and grooves emerging. "Hey, arrogant guy like you. I don't know how many I've killed. Open your eyes and see. I'm the 7 martial seas. Crocodile, 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 crocodile. What qualifications do you have to shout in front of me, you miscellaneous scumbag who came out of nowhere?" The veins burst out, and Clockdale roared angrily. His legs sank deep into the ground without any reservation, and the fruit's ability was fully utilized. Countless sandstorms were swept into the salon, creating a suffocating atmosphere of destruction. Next up. As Clockdale's right hand danced, the already poised salon roll completely exploded, rushing towards Li Xuan with a destructive momentum. Accompanied by this incredibly fierce salon roll, only the ultimate roar. Show me clearly. What exactly is true strength? Chao Shalon. Seeking flowers, seeking rewards, seeking collections, seeking monthly tickets. Chapter 9. Laozi is from the Department of Nature. Fearless. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A destructive salon roll, destroying everything recklessly. The palace buildings of the Alabastian kingdom are like paper paste in front of it, shattering at a touch. The raging sandstorm tornado even included the entire palace. Gently shaking his head, Li Xuan let out a contemptuous murmur. The lock of heaven. Show this ignorant bastard. Your power that has been sealed in dust for 4,000 years. Twice. Words fall. The sharp dagger-like parts at both ends of the heavenly lock suddenly burst out, and the chain itself continued to lengthen. The dagger rubbed against the air at both ends, emitting bursts of sound. In an instant, it had already collided with the super-large sand mist roaming and rumbling. The deafening roar was incessant, and the raging tornado crazily charged against the heavenly lock under the giant sand mist. The area where the heavenly lock suddenly attacked appeared extremely small. However, it is this tiny heavenly lock that moves forward without hesitation, tearing apart the giant sand mist. The center of the tornado is directly torn apart. The entire salon was rolled up in an instant, falling apart. A golden radiance flickers, and the lock of heaven breaks through all storms straight to Clockdale. What? Clockter, who waved his giant sand dune, saw the effortless unlocking of his own sky lock, causing his heart to tremble and his pupils to shrink. He has always been very confident in his own strength. The giant sand mist is his true ultimate move, with terrifying power. Even the other 7 martial seas have to be treated with caution. Result: surprisingly, it was so easily torn apart by the person in front of me who came out of nowhere. This man, what exactly does it exist? And what he said about being covered in dust for 4,000 years is this suddenly appearing chain the treasure of the king guarded by Kubula. Being able to easily access the treasures of the king and showcase their power. This man, can't you really be the oldest king? His eyelids twitched fiercely, and a hint of fear appeared in Crocodile's heart. No. It shouldn't be possible. This sea, no one can survive for so long. If the oldest king were still alive, the Uruk Empire, which was once rampant, would not fall apart. This man may be a powerful member of the Nefertari family who has never appeared before, being able to borrow the power of the king's treasure for a short period of time, and then all of this is to repel him. Yes. It must be like this. Forcefully suppressing his fear, Clockdale greedily glanced at the heavenly lock, crossed his hands, and turned his pen into a blade of sand. Immediately after, 2 huge sand blades were transformed again. Desert Diamond Blade. The heavenly lock is about to arrive, and 4 huge sand blades are tearing apart the air, cutting through space and fiercely slashing towards the heavenly lock. Buzzing. Suddenly. Centered around Clockter, within a radius of 1 kilometer, a brilliant golden light emerges, enveloping the earth below. In the golden light, chains burst through the air. Dang 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 dang. Countless golden chains collided with 4 huge desert diamond swords, and the crisp sound of collision was heard incessantly. In front of the surging chains, 4 huge sand blades were as weak as ants shaking trees and praying mantis arms pounding carts. In the blink of an eye, it was already covered with cracks. Wow. Not only that. More chains, directly crossing the 4 giant sand blades, entangled towards Crocodile. A continuous stream of chains rises from the golden ground, shining brilliantly and dazzling with golden light. Under this chain, everything seems incredibly small. Is this the power of the king's treasure? Truly, it's so terrifying. Standing on a golden surface, his eyes reflecting countless incoming chains, Clockdale did not panic. Even a bit of a joke. It's just a pity. I'm a natural sand fruit expert. Not bad. The reason why Clockdale was able to maintain a bit of composure in such circumstances. The biggest reliance is that he is a natural demon fruit ability person. As is well known, those with natural abilities are not only powerful, but also capable of elemental transformation. Without sea tower stones and dominance, it is impossible to touch those with natural demon fruit abilities. However, even though Clockter felt the immense power in the heavenly lock, he did not perceive any domineering fluctuations. That means this person from the Nefertari family is not domineering. I don't know how to be domineering. Even if I control the treasure of the king, I can't harm him by half, can I? At this moment of thought, Clockter directly elemental transformed into a yellow sand, ignoring the incoming chains and exploding out, until it reached Li Xian. Seeking flowers, seeking rewards, seeking collections, seeking monthly tickets.